Howdy folks, and welcome back to Armoured Warfare with the mighty Jingles. I hope you've all logged in and gotten yourself your free Tier 3 main battle tank Type 59. It's not bad, is it? It's a very, very nice little tank. Of course, that's not all that's new in Armoured Warfare. There was a major patch last week, and it's introduced a bunch of new maps, and it's completely reworked the mechanics on most of the old maps as well. And that, of course, brings with it its own little set of problems. And I'm talking here, of course, about the cooperative battles in PvE mode. None of this applies to PvP. What they've managed to do with this latest patch, the way they've reworked the mechanics of the maps and incorporated those mechanics into the new maps, they haven't actually made the AI any smarter. It's just as dumb as ever. But what they have done is they messed around with the locations of the spawns of the AI and the timing of the spawns of the AI. As a result, people are finding these cooperative battles a lot more challenging than they were a week ago, and not just on hard difficulty setting. I've been seeing people losing medium difficulty PvE co-op battles, which are generally regarded as a bit of a turkey shoot, with alarming regularity. And one thing that I have noticed is artillery is no longer as unwelcome as it traditionally has been in PvE mode. In fact, in some of these, particularly the new maps, if you don't have artillery on your team, it's going to be very, very difficult to win. Generally speaking, people aren't particularly fond of having artillery on the team in these cooperative battles, and I can appreciate why. Artillery very, very rarely does as much damage as, anything else: tank destroyer, main battle tank, light tank, or armoured fighting vehicle. But what I have been noticing is that with the advent of this new patch, those of us who play main battle tanks in particular are going to be grateful to have one artillery on our team in these co-op battles, if for no other reason than because it stops this happening over and over and over and over. It's a source of incredible frustration. I'm not entirely sure how the AI artillery prioritises its targeting in Armoured Warfare co-op battles, but what appears to be the case is they get their teeth into one target and then they just refuse to let go. Until you overrun them and destroy them, they will make your life hell. At times it really does feel as if the artillery just get their sights set on one target and they ignore everything else until either they're dead or that target is, regardless of how tactically sound that kind of decision may be. Well, the good news is that if you've been driven to your wit's end, as I have, when driving a main battle tank and being subjected to a constant stream of artillery fire, is that there is one thing that the AI artillery hates more than you, and that's another player in artillery. Now that does, of course, bring with it its own problems, particularly for the artillery player. And I'm going to give you an example of the sort of thing I'm talking about where it really doesn't work, on one map in particular. It's one of the new maps that was introduced. It's called Operation Hydra. Operation Hydra is a co-op battle where you're going to wish there was artillery on your team, because if not, your main battle tanks are going to suffer at the hands of the enemy artillery, in the first stage of the battle at least. But it's almost a death sentence for that artillery player, and I'll show you the sort of thing I'm talking about. This is the Italian Tier 6 self-propelled gun, by the way, the Palmaria. You'll note that the artillery spawns in a separate location from the bulk of the tanks on your team. They're all further over to the right hand side of the screen on the high ground overlooking this valley, which almost instantly the match starts is going to be swarming with enemy tanks. Now, while I'm loading, pay attention to the map. Remember that when you're an artillery player, and this works for the AI as well, if enemy artillery fires, you get a red, kind of like a sonar ping on the map indicating their location so that you can counter battery them. You'll note that the AI artillery is holding their fire until I give my position away, and then watch the map. I've just fired, they're aiming at me, there's one, there's two, there's three enemy artillery. By some miracle I survive, only just, but the tanks down in the valley can see me. It's just not survivable. If there were two enemy artillery, and there's usually two enemy artillery in this map, I've only ever once come across three enemy artillery, but when you've got three salvo firing triple shot artillery bombarding your position the second you fire your gun, it's suicide. And there's nowhere for you to go up there, because if you move forward, you're in view of all of those tanks down there in the valley. So this new Operation Hydra battle, if you don't have artillery on your team, there are 2 and sometimes 3 enemy artillery that are going to be bombarding all of your tanks until you've dealt with this first wave. If you do have artillery on your team, they dare not take a shot. Otherwise they've just signed their own death warrant. Is it really as harsh as that? Well, let's try again. This time I know what to expect and we're going to be prepared for it. So while Operation Hydra was still in the co-op battle rotation, I quickly queued up again in my other Tier 6 artillery. This is the Soviet version, the Akatsia. And again, I'm loading my gun. All kinds of enemy tanks spotted. And again, pay attention to the map. We're looking for those red pings on the map which indicate to an artillery player where the enemy artillery is firing from. And so far, nothing. My gun's loaded, but I haven't fired yet. They know exactly where all of our tanks are. They're taking fire from the enemy tanks, but the enemy artillery is holding its fire. Why is that, do you suppose? So I take a shot and I start moving. Nothing happens. What they're actually doing now is they're all actually aiming at my position. But I don't realise that. I think, oh, I have no artillery in this. There it is. Look at that. Okay. Well, I survived, and I've spotted one of the buggers. Shot out, hit, while they're reloading. Only, of course, I'd already fired 2 shots, so now I'm also reloading, and oh, they're firing at me. And he's there, he's in the road. This is the position for the artillery in the first wave on this map, by the way. They're just over the bridge on the other side of that road. And I'm hit again, but I got a shot out, and I'm hit again. And, oh, just survived. But did I take him out? I don't think I did. Look at that. Look at that, 5 hit points. So, a couple of things to take note of here in Operation Hydra. If you're in a proper tank, you know, armoured fighting vehicle, tank destroyer, light tank, main battle tank, on this map, and you have artillery on your team, this first wave is a piece of cake. You can go hold down in that starting location and the enemy artillery will not fire at you. They sit there waiting until they see the sonar ping on the map, when your artillery player has gotten bored of waiting and he started shooting at the tanks that are down there in the valley. From that point on, they make it their mission to silence your player artillery. So artillery's options, and we're talking about lower than tier 6 artillery here because they don't get the illumination rounds which will reveal the position of enemy players. Even tier 6, unless you're pretty much fully upgraded, you don't get them either. But the options for an artillery player during the first wave of this Operation Hydra are to sit on his ass and do nothing. Because you can see what the consequences of firing your gun are, or wait for however long it takes for the AI to get bored of waiting for you to shoot first, and then attempt to snipe them. But even that is no guarantee of success, because there's more than one of them. And the second you fire their gun, they forget what they were doing, and they start bombarding you. You can see there in chat, somebody saying, yeah, it's a hard life in artillery, isn't it, Jingles? Yeah, well, you won't be laughing when they get sick of waiting for me to shoot, and they start bombarding you guys in the tanks instead. And there they are. Generally speaking, if you're playing Tier 3 artillery, Tier 4 artillery, and you don't have those illumination rounds, it is far, far safer to wait until this point in the battle, when the tanks on your team have beaten the first wave and have overrun the enemy artillery positions. From this point on, you can actually have a pretty good game. But, yeah, if you don't have those illumination rounds, the first wave of this new Operation Hydra map is suicide if you're an artillery player. Your team are still going to be grateful to have you around, of course, because as long as you're alive, enemy artillery won't shoot at them. So, Operation Hydra. If you're in artillery, and this is the map that's currently up in the PvE co-op battle rotation, and you're in Tier 3 or 4 artillery, or Tier 6 artillery, and you haven't researched the illumination rounds yet, you might think about sitting this one out. It's either that or just sitting on your ass until the tanks on your team have pushed forward over that first bridge and have overrun the enemy artillery positions. Operation Starry Night, on the other hand, Another one of the new maps, and it's one where artillery can make a massive difference to the chances of success for your team. Operation Starry Night is basically the sequel to another map that I covered in an Armoured Warfare video, Operation Ghost Hunter. Operation Starry Night, as the name suggests, takes place later the same evening. You've taken the town and you're digging in, getting ready to repel a counterattack. The starting location for artillery on this map is much better. That cliff face over there on the right hand side, you can actually use that to pop in and out whenever you're going to take your shot at enemy artillery once they've given their position away, and it will shield you from fire, so use it wisely. You'll note that, well, once again, I'm in the Palmaria, the Western, I think it's Italian actually, Tier 6 artillery, but I do not have the illumination rounds unlocked, so I'm going to have to wait for enemy artillery to fire before I can counter battery them. And that cliff up there, that's the location. Somewhere in those bushes there's going to be artillery lurking. Now, our tanks are already being engaged by enemy forces in the town, so their positions have been given away to enemy artillery. He's still loading his gun, however, and I'm thinking about taking a shot when they're bang, sonar ping on the map. Switch to his location. There, did you see him? He popped up just for a second as he fired the gun, but I know exactly where he is, and I've got 3 shots loaded. There's 1. There's 2. And it's going to take 1 more, and he's fired back. You can see the ping on the map as he returns fire, but I've nailed him. And he wasn't able to hit me. You can just see the smoke on the cliff face at the top there where his shot landed. So, now I'm free to actually support the team. Enemy artillery's been taken care of. At least in the first wave. There are going to be more of the little buggers. Now, when I do actually have the luxury of picking and choosing the targets I'm going to shoot at, because there's no enemy artillery to take care of, I always go for the targets that my team are going to struggle to deal with from the front, like that T-80 there. You can see this Challenger down here is having real problems trying to penetrate him. And, oh, back to that in a moment. Enemy artillery. There. You see him? I think it was a Paladin. I'm almost loaded, but my target pipper is red, which means there's something obstructing my line of fire. Do you remember that cliff face that was very conveniently shielding me from the first artillery, which spawned further to the south? Yeah, unfortunately, hard cover works both ways, so I've now lost his location. I don't know exactly where he is anymore. I am ready to fire if he has another go at our tanks, and he's actually further north than that. That's the location of the first artillery, the one that I killed earlier. Of course, we're not in contact at the moment with any enemy vehicles, so enemy artillery isn't shooting at anybody. So we're going to have to be patient and just wait for him. And it doesn't take too long before our forces make contact with enemy tanks, and that Paladin starts firing his gun again. And there, you just saw him just for a fraction of a second. 1 shot out. There's 1. There's another 1. He's going to be turning his gun at me. Come on. 3rd shot for the win. No. Hit him. 3 direct hits from this big old gun wasn't enough. He, of course, is a Tier 8 artillery. He's got enough health that he can survive 3 direct hits from Tier... Oh, he's firing again. My gun's almost loaded. There he is. It's only going to take 1 more. I'm going to have to move forward, of course. And this is dangerous because, as you saw earlier, being able to take a shot at this guy means exposing myself to direct line of fire from those enemy tanks in the cap circle. So, hopefully, they're going to be more occupied with the actual tanks on our team. I've got to finish this guy. Inch forward a little more. There he is. Should only take 1 shot. Got him. Now I can start helping my team defend the cap. They've pretty much got it in hand, though. There's another kill. Lovely. Right. I'm playing on hard difficulty, by the way. I always do wherever possible, so that means Tier 5 and above. It's just more interesting and also more rewarding. But I've actually seen people lose Operation Starry Night on medium difficulty. And the reason it tends to get lost on medium difficulty is because, well, it's all to do with defending this second cap circle down here. The position where I am in the artillery is actually a very good position for tanks. Tank destroyers, you name it. All up here on this ridgeline. It provides excellent fields of fire down into that cap circle and the approaches to the cap circle. The problem is that when you come to move from this cap circle to the second cap circle, which is over that bridge, if the bulk of your team are all up here where I am, you just can't get there in time. This right here is a perfect example of where it always goes horribly wrong on Operation Starry Night, and what artillery can do to save the game for you. Any second now, the next capture point is going to pop up, and there it is. But the team are still dealing with the remnants of the previous wave, and these are tier 9 main battle tanks that the team has to kill. And that's easier said than done if you're in a Challenger, which has great armour, but the gun isn't fantastic. And that's all we have left on the team, by the way. Our M2 Bradley has been knocked out, so the team really need my assistance in dealing with these Leopard 2A6s. However, while we're still struggling to get over that bridge, enemy tanks are spawning all the way over on the western side of the map, and they're heading into that cap circle. And even if the team didn't have to deal with an XM8 Thunderbolt and a Leopard 2A6, the Challenger is, while it's a great tank in many respects, it's certainly not one of the fastest vehicles in armoured warfare. So even if they didn't have to deal with these tanks, they still probably wouldn't be able to get over there in time. So while I'm itching to take shots at this Leopard 2, I'm going to have to do something about the cap up here. Really wish I had those illumination rounds. That one didn't hit anything. Try the other side of the farmhouse. Nope, nothing there. One shot left, and I've been spotted. Oh, great. And bingo, hit something. And now I'm reloading. And that's when enemy artillery respawns. I take a big old hit for half of my health from an M109A6 Paladin. My gun's almost reloaded, and I have no choice. I have to keep pouring fire into the cap circle, or we're going to lose this match. We've managed to get one Challenger up there who's basically ignoring everything shooting at him in order to help me reset his cap. And move, and yep. Enemy artillery isn't interested in anything but me. Come on, boys. We've got this now. We've got this. Get some more shots into that cap circle. We've got one shot left. Fire and move. And he is pinging again, but he's missed. I need to deal with him. We have enough tanks up there now that we can probably... Yes, they're resetting the cap nicely. They just needed that little bit of breathing space in order to get there in time. And now I'm going to have to try to deal with this fella because he's going to nail me if I fire again. There's one shot. Fire another one, start moving. No, not enough. I had so little health left that... actually, I think it was a direct hit. So I'm out of it. We're not quite out of the woods yet, though, but all... 3 of the Challengers have managed to get up here now, and yeah, we're good now. We've done it. That's how close this match is, even if you have artillery support. This, of course, is on hard difficulty, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the only way to play co-op battles. But if not for having artillery on the team, we would certainly have lost this match. No question about it. Now, what I'm not saying, before I get misquoted again, what I'm not saying is that unless you have artillery on your team, you can't beat Operation Starry Night. The very first time I played this map was in the Object 430, and we didn't have any artillery. And it was tough. But providing your team is aggressive, and they push, and they don't hang around at the back, particularly on that ridgeline up in the top right corner of the map, it is entirely doable. You either need very aggressive main battle tanks, or very, very good scouts, but it is definitely doable. It's a damn sight easier if you've got effective artillery, however. I do like these new maps. Well, with the exception of Operation Hydra, if you're playing in artillery, where the entire first wave, if you fire your gun, it's just suicide. That probably needs looking at. But generally speaking, I like the new maps, and the changes to the spawns and the timing of the old maps. They reward aggressive play, and they penalise passive play. And I think that's really, really good. And it's definitely making co-op battles a lot more exciting. And I particularly like that they appear to be taking steps to make sure that people who do play artillery don't feel quite such a burden to their team when they're in a co-op battle anymore. And there is actually something useful and beneficial that you can do for your team, particularly when things start going badly wrong, as they did towards the end there in Operation Starry Night. That's it for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.